So Garmin just completely blindsided the wearables world with a brand new watch, the Venu X1. And get this, it's their thinnest watch ever, but it also has their biggest display ever. Kinda wild, right? So the big question is this surprising new watch right for you? Okay, let's dive in and break down everything you need to know.
You know, for years, choosing a smartwatch has always felt like a big compromise. You could get a really sleek, stylish lifestyle watch that looks great, or you could get one of those data-heavy, hardcore fitness watches that's maybe a little bulky. It's been almost impossible to get both in one package. Well, it seems like Garmin is trying to finally solve that exact problem.
All right, so to help you figure this all out, here's how we're going to tackle it. We'll look at what makes this watch so different, we'll hit the biggest pros, and of course, the cons. Then we'll see how it stacks up against the competition, and wrap it all up with a final verdict on whether this thing should be on your wrist.
So first up, what exactly is the Venu X1? Well, it's a totally new kind of play from Garmin. They've essentially taken their stylish, almost smartwatch-like Venu series and crammed it full of the powerful, pro-level software you'd normally only find on their super high-end Forerunner and Phoenix watches. It's really their attempt to build a watch that can live in the city, but also train for a marathon.
Okay, let's start with the stuff that really makes you go, wow. Because there are a few things about the Venu X1 that are just completely new for Garmin, and they're clearly designed to make a huge first impression.
And the very first thing you're going to notice is that screen. It is a massive 2-inch AMOLED display, the largest Garmin has ever put on a watch. I mean, to put that into perspective, it's even bigger than the screen on the Apple Watch Ultra 2. It is just huge and absolutely vibrant.
But here's the really crazy part. Even with that gigantic screen, the case is only 8mm thin. That makes it, officially, Garmin's thinnest watch ever. And that's a huge deal for comfort, especially if you plan on wearing it 24/7 for sleep tracking and all that.
And hey, don't just take my word for it. This design definitely got noticed. The tech analyst DC Rainmaker called it astonishingly thin and said it reminded him of Garmin's much simpler, older watches. So it's kind of a throwback to that slim style, but now it's just packed with modern tech.
And speaking of tech, this is where the Venu X1 really starts to pull away from the pack. It's got a whole suite of elite training features that it inherited from its much more expensive siblings. We're talking full routable maps right on your wrist, plus those deep analytics like training readiness, which literally tells you if your body's recovered enough for a tough workout, and things like endurance score to track your performance over the long haul. They didn't stop at the software either. Garmin really didn't skimp on the hardware here. You've got a lightweight titanium caseback, a super durable sapphire crystal lens protecting that giant display, and even a built-in LED flashlight, a super practical feature they borrowed from the Phoenix line. On top of that, there's a speaker and mic so you can actually take calls right from your wrist.
Okay, so far it sounds pretty amazing, but this is a buyer's guide, right? And no product is perfect. To make something this thin and this bright, Garmin absolutely had to make some pretty big trade-offs. So it's really important that we look at what you're giving up.
And the biggest trade-off, without a doubt, is the battery life. In its standard mode, you get a very respectable 8 days. But, and this is a big but, if you want to use that gorgeous AMOLED display in its always-on mode, the battery life just plummets. We're talking down to just 2 days. That is a massive drop, and it's a really key thing to consider if you're used to only charging your Garmin once a week.
And for a watch that costs $800, there are a few other surprising things missing. It doesn't have dual-band GPS, which is really the gold standard for accuracy when you're in tricky spots, like a dense city or deep in a canyon. It also doesn't have an ECG app for detecting signs of atrial fibrillation, and its water resistance is just a standard 5 ATM, which is fine for swimming, but not for diving, unlike the 100-meter rating you see on more rugged adventure watches.
So, how does this really unique mix of features and compromises stack up against its most obvious rival? Let's put the Venu X1 right up against the Apple Watch Ultra 2, which you'll notice sits at the exact same price.
This table really just frames the whole choice perfectly. At the exact same price, the Venu X1 clearly wins on screen size and standard battery life. But the real difference here is about philosophy. The Venu X1 is for the person who is obsessed with Garmin's deep, nerdy training data. The Apple Watch, on the other hand, is for the person who really values a massive app store and having cellular connectivity everywhere.
All right, we've gone through the good, the bad, and how it compares. So it's time to bring this all home and answer the single most important question. Should you actually buy the Garmin Venu X1?
Let's see if this very specific and, honestly, very ambitious new watch is a good fit for your profile.
This watch is definitely for you if your #1 priority is having a massive, beautiful screen on a watch that feels like it's barely even there. You're serious about your training data. You really want those pro-level metrics, but you want it all in a sleek design that doesn't scream, "I just got back from climbing a mountain."
But you should probably skip it if that 2-day always-on battery life is a total deal-breaker for you. If you're a serious adventurer who needs that pinpoint GPS accuracy in remote areas, or if you're specifically looking for advanced health sensors like an ECG, you would honestly be better served by a different watch, maybe even another one from Garmin's own Phoenix or Forerunner lineups.
So, at the end of the day, the Venu X1 is this fascinating, really bold new step for Garmin. It's an aggressive attempt to blend their hardcore athletic DNA with true smartwatch style. But whether or not it's the perfect do-it-all watch, well, that really just depends on which compromises you're willing to live with.